And the lighting's weird. The sun is changing. I might have to start doing this earlier in the day at some point. Since, let's see, we have 10, 11 more chapters to go. So, yeah, it's going to be winter and dark. So at some point we will switch it and make it earlier. Oh, here comes the other kitty. Aw. The cats are out. Hey, come here, babe. They won't let me touch them while they're out. Ollie, you want to say hello? You don't want to say hello? Maybe later? Okay. So, yes, the cats are out. It's their second day. They got little jingly bells on. So, maybe they will say hello later. Don't get in trouble over there. You're going to do it, aren't you? You're going to do it. Okay. So, all right, the cats are out. We hear jingly bells until they go somewhere else. What else? Yeah, sorry I couldn't do it yesterday. There was an event we were going to, and I didn't want to have to rush back or anything. It was quite rainy too. So, yeah, okay, today, cloudy, not too bad. Yeah, and next weekend, it might be Sunday as well. I'm going to this Elfia event on Saturday. Get to wear my, 18th century stays. I've been sewing up some other little things. I gotta make myself a bonnet. It is more like a fantasy event, I guess. I haven't, over here! I haven't gone there yet before. First time. So I guess it's something like a Renaissance fair. So I'm just wearing what I got. It's surprising how much I like costumes and historical things, but how few options I actually have for wearing to these events. Anyway, I'm looking into other historic events that I can go to and have to make costumes for. There's a Viking one, I think, and one in the court of Louis the 13th, I think, and 1618. That's going to take a lot of work. What else is new? What else? Yeah, went to a spa this week. That was very relaxing. I'd like to do that more often. I think it would be even nice there in the winter, although you wouldn't be able to get into the little lake. That would be freezing cold. But it was a nice little retreat. I look forward to more retreats and traveling as the days go by. Things get open. I don't even know what's going on in the rest of the world, really. I just don't know anymore. What else? Yeah, just been doing kind of a lot of sewing this week and reading my diaries. I started that diary project. You should check that out at thelostdiaryproject.com. I'm almost done reading the third diary, which I found the relatives of. I don't know how to say things. So that will be returned to its family soon. I found some relatives of the first diary I bought, so I'm working that out with them. And yeah, it's fun, and I'm looking for people to subscribe and help me with this, and I think it's a good deed. Somehow these diaries got lost, sold at estate sales, or who knows what. Donated, probably donated. They probably got donated when they died. Who knows? So trying to, oh, you're gonna climb a tree. You're gonna get that bug. That's really cute. Oh my, I've got a cat in a tree. Maybe I can show you. Pete. Oh, okay. That's Pete. Yeah, so that's my new project. Excited about that. Trying to figure out how to promote that, get word out there. Also, before I forget, I must say something because it was brought to my attention by someone in a in a small YouTubers group who did this wasn't even ASMR. She did something else. I am in ASMR groups too. Thank you. Curly, I got it cut last week. Anyway, she was saying how she found out that a lot of her videos, like swimming around as a mermaid, were uploaded without her permission or shared or something or other on a website for people who like mermaids. But somehow this was in a way that she was not getting monetized or paid for monetization, and YouTube was also, I don't know, getting on her case, like her analytics were off, which mine are too, you guys. You've skewed my analytics. Now I've got like a 95% male audience. Anyway, she noticed that her views were up, but she wasn't making any money. So I was like, this is interesting, because when I first started doing these live streams, my earnings started going up, and each of these is very popular and gets views. Here comes the other cat. They're playing together. It's adorable. That's Oliver. So for a little while it was going up, but then at some point, even though I'm on my 13th live stream, I know I'm slacking with my other videos, but they weren't earning much anyway. These were always like the high earners, you know, like $5 a month per video. It's going down, and I don't know why. So I am suspecting these videos are somehow being maybe shared on some other website and the monetization isn't working. Thank you for joining us, you guys. Little cameos. Entertainment in the background there. So I just want to say, if you're watching this video later, or you see any of these other videos like on any website other than my YouTube channel or something I am like directly involved in, you know, my YouTube channel or my Buy Me a Coffee site, let me know, because I need to check it out and see what's going on. If this video or other smoking reading videos are ending up on other websites. Because if they are, then that's probably what the problem is here. Because I can't figure it out why I'm getting more views and subscribers and have more of these videos people are watching, but the earnings are going down. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm still going to finish the book. So we've still got 11 weeks of this. And I will get started now. I'll start with a cigarette and start reading chapter 13. And the kitties will come and go and hopefully climb the tree again, because that's real funny. All right then. What am I doing, kitty? All right. I didn't watch the Audrey. I should watch that Audrey smoking video like at least once a week to observe more and get it in my head how she smokes. Like I said last week, I noticed she like inhales, or she does her thing, and like as she's taking it away, she's already blowing out smoke, like something like that. Watch the video that I have on Audrey smoking, which can't be monetized, but watch it anyway. And let me know what you notice and how you can coach me. I need to do a real update video with the smoking before the weather gets bad. All right, let's go. Chapter 13. Oh, I forgot my ashtray, didn't I? Well, we've got the ground for now. Knew I forgot something. All right. Sit back, get comfy. Watch cats. Oh, you don't get this show. They're fighting. A year passed, and they were in Lent again. The time of secret self-denials in the sisterhood, of nervousness and tension among the black boys. The exhaustion of the Congo summer was written on every face, clearest of all on those of the nursing nuns, who were still too few. In the months of the worst heat, Mother Mathilde had regularly selected one of them to accompany her on her travels, in itself a sign of anxiety for their well-being. She always hinted to the teaching nuns that there was a clinic to be inspected or a school mission that had been ordered to make a mass vaccination and had called for instruction in the technique. Twice during the year, Sister Luke travelled with her to remote missions the order was pioneering. She saw the Africa of her dreams on those trips. Both times they went part way by pirogues, down misty rivers banked by dense forests, looped with lianas. The black boys who pulled them along sang ballads with a strange, repetitive rhythm, and Mother Mathilde stood often at the prow, gazing raptly forward as if she must possess ahead of the others, and before ever an oar disturbed it, each ravishing Eden the winding river disclosed. She sighed like a child when they tied up at their destinations, and once she said endearingly, "I can never bear to have it end." Sister Luke relived her outings for weeks after. She nursed a secret hope that when her assignment in the European hospital would end, she would be transferred to one of those pioneering missions which serve the natives exclusively. In a few more years, she would be due for the automatic transfer, which kept every nun from attaching too strongly to one community, one job, and one place. The only loss would be that of Mother Mathilde, she reflected, but superiors also had to take over a new community at specified times, and there was always a chance of reunion in their small world. Oh, ow, I got that in my eye. She was at last a choir nun. On arrival in the colony, her voice had been tested by Sister Servienne, the cantatrice of the community and music teacher in the school, but Mother Mathilde had postponed, because of double duties, her participation in the plain chants which taxed the strength of the singing nuns even in the cool home country. Sorry, plants. She had been singing now for almost a year. She could date her admission to the choir by Father Vermeulen's last visit, when she had had to tell him the results of the test. He himself had given her the fortitude she prayed for when he said before she could speak, "Not yet, sister. My soul is leprous, why should not my body be also?" She remembered he had wept when she told Mother Mathilde about it, and she sometimes wondered if her admission to the choir shortly after related in some way to the despair she confessed to feeling when God's justice took such incomprehensible form. This would be the first Easter service she would sing. The ordinary of the Mass for the Paschal season, I'm not sure, was one of the most beautiful of the Vatican Kyriale. I tried to look this up, but I didn't have a lot of help with the pronunciation of that word. Kyriale. She practiced breath control for it under the purple skies of the Congo Lent, while the rains poured down with press-button timing, from 10 to 11 every morning and from 3 to 5 every afternoon. The Kyrie, explained Sister Servienne's at practice, begins, as you all know, in the third mode, then changes to the eighth. The third mode has E as finalis, and the eighth has G. And while Sister Servienne was striking the notes on the organ, Sister Luke saw herself with a small band of black boys in the bush, listening to her high humming and reproducing it perfectly right after her. Sometimes when she sang with the choir, she felt an impatience with the cantatrice for not lifting with more force from the E to the G mode, and urging the nuns to give their all to the final "Christ is risen." Then she would think, "I know nothing at all about this ancient music. Why then do I feel so judgmental?" She had had the impression that her whole psychology had changed. Her emotions flared for small things. When a sister proclaimed her in culpa, she found it less easy to smile and look thankful for having been reminded of an imperfection. Her dream life was wild and troubling. Often when the night duty nurse plucked her sheet and whispered sorrowfully, "Praised be Jesus Christ, it is 4 o'clock, Sister Luke," she had to wait until her dreams dissipated before she could recognize the faithful sister who bent over her bed. Had it ever occurred to her that anything in her iron constitution would could break down, she would have known at once the cause of her psychological change. Afterwards, it was so easy to chart the steps of her malady that she wondered how, at the time, she had missed every warning signal until the frightful death of one of her dressing boys somehow brought everything into focus. It happened on a day when everything went wrong in the hospital. The doctor lost life on the operating table at 5 in the morning. A defeat for both herself and him, although every prognosis had been unfavourable from the start. Then Emile reported that one of the boys had come to work too drunk to stand. She telephoned to Monsieur Marcel, chief of the Force Publique, who always pulled her out of dilemmas with her boys. The town jail, he told her, was filled to the last cell. Put him away somewhere to cool off, said Marcel. If your own prisoner pavilion is full, get Emile to find a corner on the grounds. The boy will sleep it off in 24 hours, sister. My tigers are chasing each other. She told Emile to find a place. Anywhere, just so long as he's out of sight. Which one this time, Emile? Banza, said Emile. I shall order a flogging when he is sober. You'll find out the reasons first, then decide punishment. No good reason, Mameluke. Only woman business. A man from his village told that his wife ran away with a hunter, but Banza has another wife, younger, full of children still. She forgot about Banza as soon as Emile went off to take care of him. She had 3 pregnancies coming to term in maternity, and the same number of husbands to console in a waiting room that registered 112 degrees, with a humidity almost at saturation point. There were 2 typhoid cases and contagious, and the general ward was filled to the last bed with skin grafts, snake bites, and enough malaria cases to shake the walls when the chills came on. She thanked God that Sister Aurélie was off on a trip with Mother Mathilde that day, up in the cool highlands of the Kivu. Once or twice Emile went to look at Banza, and came back to report that he snored in stupor like an animal, and perhaps ought to have no less than 20 lashes to make him remember that he was a man. All right. Oh, this is one that has the tobacco in it. Oh. So, hello. Bye. His black face, lacquered shiny with sweat, suffered visibly for Banza's defection, as if the whole Bantu tribe had been betrayed by it. Wait until morning, Emile. The next morning Emile waited for her outside the chapel. The rains of the night were rising back to heaven in a white mist, through which sunrise was beating its way in spokes of yellow light. It was like the dawn of creation, like the little chapter and prime she had just been chanting. Who is she that cometh forth as the morning rising? Go and release him, she said patiently. Bring him to me. Let me talk with him in your presence. We must be just, Emile. Emile was unrecognizable when he returned to her desk. His face was ash-gray, his eyes protruded, his voice a gasp. Mama, come see. He choked, unable to go on. Hurrying with him through hospital corridors and across the garden, she tried to find out what had happened. Mama, see, Mama, see. He chattered in the fluty voice of fear, first in French, then in Kiswahili. Mama ia kutala. He led the way to a galvanized iron shed behind the hospital, where garden tools were kept, flung open the door and pointed. There on the dirt floor was a man-shaped mound of white ants that had eaten Banza clean to the skeleton. Not even a tuft of hair was left on the skull. Frozen with horror, she stared at the bloated white bodies of the carnivorous driver ants, covering the skeleton like a living shroud. She never knew how she got back to the hospital. I don't want to live there. Anytime I hear about something like that, I think, no, maybe not the tropics for me. The police chief asked twice who was speaking. Then he wanted some indication of the trouble. Should he bring the paddy wagon and a squad of guards? She waited until her teeth stopped chattering, then said, I can't tell you over the phone, Marcel, pleadingly, so he would remember that colony telephones were connected with the talking drums and that every message of importance passed directly to the bush from the native switchboard. "You come alone," she begged. In 10 minutes he was there at her desk, solid, businesslike, smiling until he saw her face. She motioned Emil to take him to the tool shed and saw both of them hesitate. Oh, what a brave kitty. He's in a tree. "I can't go back there again," she whispered. Her forced calm was like a trance as she waited for Marcel to return. The after-image of the man-shaped mound in terrible crawling motion played back on the chart she seemed to study. She pretended to herself that the tumult she heard was not her conscience crying out, but the thrumming of insects that emerged from their burrows when the rainy season was ending. Marcel reappeared, smelling faintly of kerosene. He spoke for several moments before she realized he was talking Flemish with the salty accent of Antwerp, familiar, homelike, and curiously consoling. "Hey, Simba." "I had Emil put a torch to the beast," he said. "Sent my driver back to town for a coffin. That's all the natives will see coming out of that shed, sister. A customary coffin for Christian burial. Banza was a convert, wasn't he?" "One of mine," she said desolately. "What the drums will tell, no one knows, but the certificate will have to state death from unknown cause." As if she had spoken in disagreement, Marcel began to argue. "How could anyone say eaten by ants when we know he was blind drunk when shut up? Only last week I went out to a village to interrogate the family of a Bantu who died from an unknown cause. Unknown, that is, until I learned he'd been drinking Simba beer most of the afternoon. Obviously, sister, a death by poison. It happens often when the beer is not properly prepared." "Oh, you're gonna fall." It's his first time climbing a tree. He watched her while he talked of the two kinds of cassava, the sweet and the bitter manioc roots, and of the hydrocyanic acid in the bitter root in sufficient quantity to cause death if not boiled out thoroughly over high heat. "It's very likely," he said in a professional tone, "that your boy was dead from poison before even the ants got to him. Before ever the ants got to him. That's what I told Emil to make him stop beating his breast and blaming himself. That Emil, you know what, sister, he's been away from the bush too long. Completely forgot that some Simba is as effective as black mamba venom." She fought back tears as she stared at his bluff, homespun face. Was he telling her that to help clear her own conscience as well? She would never know. No one would ever know except God and the man standing before her, pretending not to see her emotion. "Hey, you." "Thank you, Marcel." She managed a frayed smile, to which he responded with a smart salute. She asked for an interview with Mother Mathilde as soon as her superior returned from a trip. She took all the blame upon herself as she reported the incident in full detail. "I should have made the time to go with Emile, ma mère. I'm sure I'd have thought to keep Banza off the ground." She coughed and covered her face with her bandana. Mother Mathilde looked at her as she picked up the police report. "Unknown cause," she read aloud. "I agree with this," she said firmly. "Like Marcel, I've seen too many poisonings from Simba in my time not to include it always as the most likely cause." "You must do likewise, sister. I understand how, in the first shock of discovery, you took it upon yourself. Any one of us would have done the same, constituted as we are." She smiled gently and stiffened her tone. "But now you must put from you the temptation to excessive self-reproach. You must not go on blaming yourself. You are much too intelligent to give way to that form of self-indulgence. Self-indulgence! The matter should have ended there. Her superior had named it self-indulgence, but she could not rid herself of the feeling of blame. Was it, she wondered, because of her peculiar psychological change that she was unable to throw off Banza's death? In the ensuing weeks, she seemed to be continuously fighting back tears. When the doctor went out of his way to make a task easier for her, some new thing in her responded with with such sentimentality that she hardly recognized herself. Then one morning in the laboratory, she was examining slides. She turned her face away from the microscope to cough. A sudden impulse came over her to look at her sputnum. It's ridiculous, she told herself, like all the other impulses that come over me these days. But her hands were already preparing a slide. She coughed again deliberately and got a sputnum sample. She made a stain of it and looked at it with the high-power lens. The rod-like bacilli of tuberculosis trembled red-violet in the field. Her first reaction was relief. That's all it is, she thought. That's why I'm always tired and emotional. That's why I couldn't shake off Banz's death. That's all. Then she remembered that all white tuberculosis patients were sent home as fast as ship or plane could get them out, because the malady galloped in the tropics. Her predecessor had been repatriated. Tuberculosis always writes fini to service in the Congo, Sister Augustine had said on the ship. This is my ticket home. She gasped, as if the walls of the homeland convents were already closing in about her. Blessed Lord, don't let this happen to me. But it had happened. She peered at the tiny colored rods floating in the radiant field. She began to count them automatically. Then abruptly she snatched the slide from under the microscope and dropped it in the wastebasket. For the next hour she went on with her work. She finished her microscopy, prepared medication trays for the afternoon rounds, telephoned twice to Mother Mathilde to give reports on patients she had asked about. It was easy to pretend that nothing had happened. Another self had taken charge. You can ride this out and tell no one, said the stranger self. You know everything about TB, its phases and cycles. The afternoon flush won't show beneath your tan. You can control the coughing, as so often you've told patients they can and must. With will, you can develop appetite, and a meal can fetch from the marketplace all the extra eggs you'll need. You're already allowed to take afternoon naps when the work permits, so then you can sleep and feed yourself out of this. Her conscience let the stranger self carry on for an hour. Then Sister Audrey came with a chart she wanted to discuss. Her brown face sunk deep and her coif turned eagerly to her. You have such a gift for diagnosis, Sister Luke, she said. Doesn't this look like gastric hemorrhage to you? Dark brown vomitus, tarry stools. Sister Luke read the entries and nodded. She was about to speak when her conscience took charge. It jerked her head back from the trusting face, waiting to catch everything, including the invisible spray from her lips. Tell the boys to give nothing but cracked ice, she said, off to the side, hoarsely, as though a hand were at her throat. Sister Audrey smiled thanks and slipped out the door. For a moment Sister Luke stared at the place where the catch-all coif had been. It seemed still to be there, hanging in the air like an empty shell. Into it came the faces of her sisters one by one. First the nurses with their whispers so discreet that you had to close in upon them, almost coif to hear. Then the choir nuns singing out the long "oh" of the salve, exchanging each other's breaths between beats. She flew through the corridors to the surgery. The doctor was hunched over a microscope, humming to himself. I don't know what to do, doctor, she said to his back. I'm so terribly tired. I think I'm sick. Every time people are tired, they say they're sick. He snapped off the draw tube light and turned around. What's the matter? I'm TB, she said stoically. That's nothing to joke about. I'm not joking. He realized that she wasn't. He took her by the shoulder. The emotion in his face almost paralyzed her. Who told you? He shook her and raised his voice. Who told you? The slides, the microscope, my own sputnum. He didn't question her findings. He never did. He held her rigid for a full minute, staring at her as if she had betrayed him. Then she said brokenly, You're the only one in the whole Congo I can work with. I don't think I could do without you. Let's do one of my herbal ones. Oopsie. I can smell the lavender. He looked around the surgery as if trying to imagine what it would be like without her. He let go of her shoulder and reached for his stethoscope. Take off your habit, he ordered. Open up. I'm going to listen to those lungs. There were many garments to unfasten. A scapular, cotton chemise, the stiff bodice that flattened the breast. Her fingers shook as she bared her thorax. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe her tired eyes had tricked her. I think he's climbing a different tree. Yep. She sat on the table, unaware, until he threw it over her shoulder, that she had forgotten to take off her veil. Gruffly he told her to cough, sigh, and say 33. There's certainly something. Seems to be in the left lobe. He came around to listen from the front. She turned her face away as he bent over her chest, seeming not to breathe as he listened. It's a summit lesion, a small one. His worried face broke into a smile. We're lucky, sister. We can catch this one fast. Cats around. One's there, one's there. I like how they stay close by. Is he stuck? What's he doing? What are you doing? Wait a minute. You're on the other side of the fence. Why? Darn it. Oh, dear. Is he trying to get back in? Ollie, what are you doing? Come back. Summit of the lobe where oxygen comes in first. Thank God. Oh, thank God, she thought. Then she saw herself sitting there with bared chest. The doctor caught her look of dismay and turned away. They both knew it was forbidden for a nun to be examined without another sister present. Both had forgotten this in the tension of the moment. The doctor kept his back turned while she buttoned back the parts of her habit hanging from the waist. But he went on talking. You can stand the gold treatment, sister. It's rough on the kidneys, but you're strong. I'll take the responsibility. I've got to tell Mother Mathilde, she said in a low voice. And about this unwitnessed examination and running first to him. Why? He spun around. He wanted to keep it just between them. Why? He demanded again angrily. Obedience, she said. I must. They'll send you home if you do. I know. 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. The sight of them seemed to startle him, as though an unexpected symptom had suddenly revealed itself. She had the feeling that he was reading below the level of her thoughts. He studied her with narrowed eyes like a psychiatrist, probing and pondering. Then he spoke quite calmly. You're afraid, sister. You wouldn't be able to stand the convent if they sent you home. She backed away speechless. He followed her, speaking with the cold precision of a scientist. I'm going to tell you something about yourself that perhaps you never knew. You know how well I know nuns. I've never worked with a lay nurse since first I picked up a scalpel. You're not in the mould, sister, and you never will be. You're what is called a worldly nun. Ideal for the public, ideal for the patients. But you'll never be the kind of nun your convent expects you to be. That's your illness. The TB is a byproduct. Ollie! He watched her cover up her reactions. Her struggle for calm and silence started her coughing. He waited. Then he said in an offhand manner, But I can cure the byproduct, sister, if you want. I want to stay, she said huskily. His eyes flashed admiration, then closed down with cunning. You leave it all to me, then, he said eagerly. I'll tell Mother Mathilde first. I'll tell her in such a way that she cannot send you home. We're both responsible for letting you work as you have, for counting on your moral strength while ignoring the physical condition. He grinned unexpectedly. And we won't have to create precedent to keep you here for the gold dust cure. The Reverend Mother and I, oh, you're back, have connived once before. A big fish in colonial affairs, too important to be spared even for half a year furlough. A much more advanced case. She saw me pull it through. It would have been both our necks if I hadn't. Oh, silly. She had the impression that he had pulled her out of a dark pit. The brightness in the surgery almost blinded her. Sunlight shot from the instrument cabinet to a row of beakers on a shelf, and there seemed to be a weird red light around his atabrine yellowed face, not at all like a halo. We've got the weather with us, the dry, cool season. We'll move you out to the prisoners' pavilion, where you can sleep practically in the treetops. Eggs, sardines, white muscat wine, I'll write your diet. In 3 months, maybe less. Can I work? Said the nun in her. Assisting me mornings only. He looked at her sharply. But there's one thing you must promise me, sister. You've got to burn less energy. Remember, I'll be working only on the byproduct. The main malady is for you to cure. An odd smile made his face quite gentle. Don't try so hard to be the perfect nun, sister. Relax. You've got to relax. He pulled off his gown and put on a pongee jacket. Pongee? At the door he turned and gave her his customary sardonic smile. To ease that overgrown conscience of yours, Reverend Sister, I'm going to tell Mother Matilde that I myself discovered your condition this morning and give you no chance to get to her first. Anything you knew before I did, you keep under your bonnet, if you can. If your pride as a microscopist doesn't get the better of you. Then, there began for her a strange interlude. It lasted for 3 months. Afterwards, when she looked back upon it, it was a passage picked in gold out of the black and white context of her religious life. It was the childhood she'd never really had, lived among treetops as children dream of living, with an elegant small monkey as companion and bright green crickets for him to eat. It was the time of her most perfect purity and innocence, with everything coming to her through her feelings, including her awareness of God. He was the rustle of lizards in her thatched roof, the scent of mimosa through the window screens, and the slap of banana leaves when the wind blew. He gave her signs of himself each day in grace notes, and when darkness fell, he gave her the sonorous symphony of his African night in great roars and rumbles of creation and extinction which made every Old Testament prophecy come true. Old Petey on a table. I disapprove. Everything was unbelievable, beginning with the overwhelming realization that Mother Matilde cherished her to the point of weeping when the doctor gave his news. The superior spent an hour in the chapel after her conference with him, then summoned her. "I'm going to give you a special rule," she said. "With God's help, I've decided to let you stay and take the risk. It's kill or cure, as we both know." She blew her nose, looking at Sister Luke with red eyes full of anxiety and love. Then she cleared her throat and spoke in her usual steady voice. "The special rule permitted work only in the mornings," she said, "assisting the doctor in surgery and preparing the day's nursing schedule, which Sister Audrey would carry out under her indirect supervision. She would take all her meals in her room, not to contaminate refectory utensils, and was dispensed from community devotions, though not from performing these each day privately. She could attend Mass, but must no longer sing with the choir. She could live in the upstairs room of the prisoner's pavilion. Like a bird on the branch," said Mother Matilde, bringing back her captivating smile with the words. Sister Luke had to fight her impulse to rise up and embrace her. The prisoner's pavilion was a replica of the bush station she used to dream about on the ship coming out. It was a 2-storied annex at the rear of the hospital, facing out toward the bush, built in native style with a thatched roof. On the lower floor were housed the occasional prisoners from the town jail who needed hospitalization, and Hindus who, for religious and dietary reasons, could not be treated in the main hospital. Her circular room under the thatch was walled with fine meshed screen, which became visible only when lights were on. Then it was a curtain of night moths beating softly from the outside with huge brown velvet wings. The doctor ordered her meals from the refectory, putting her on his original supplementary diet for tubercular patients, which he called oysters on the prairie. He himself came the first day to show her how his oysters must be consumed. He had procured from Mother Matilde a pair of finest crystal wine glasses, and in each was a raw egg yolk sprinkled with chopped parsley and lemon juice. He saw her staring at the wine glasses used only for visits of high personages. "Presentation is everything to a TB, sister," he said, smiling. "You should know that." He put a glass in each hand and told her to swallow the yolks as if they were oysters. "In addition to this twice daily and your regular meals, you'll be awakened each night at 10 to consume sandwiches of mashed sardines and 2 glasses of white muscat wine." He inspected the room, examined the type of mattress, sheets and pillowcase, and checked the bottles of beer standing in a bucket of ice, all exactly as he had ordered. "Good," he said. "Drink as much as you can. No Lenten abstinence, sister, unless you want to come out of this gold cure with wrecked kidneys." He discovered a microscope hidden under the wash basin stand, picked it up, and went out the door with it, humming an air from Tosca. And so it began, a 3 months of spoiling which even in the world, in places where money flowed freely, could never have been duplicated. The community spun a cocoon of loving kindness about her. The sisters said a Mass for her safe recovery, and if some of them asked themselves, is this the result of real abnegation from overwork, or of some soul struggle which she cannot resolve, Nothing showed on their civilized faces as they put their hearts into prayers for her. Sister Eucharistia made the first visit, then the others came in turn. The old nun carried a baby monkey she had confiscated from a boy in the boarding school, for which she had promised to find a home, and when Sister Luke took the nervous, long-tailed body on her 2 palms and asked, "Will Mother Matilda permit?" Sister Eucharistia smiled and said without envy or malice, "Beelzebub told her that the cure depends on your having what you want and doing what you want," and looked happy because this wonderful, unheard-of liberty had happened to one of them. The news filtered out inevitably. Wines and champagnes began appearing in Mother Matilda's office with cards from colonial patients who remembered the nun praying beside their beds at odd hours in the nights of their crises. Wives of the dressing boys brought eggs and chickens, and occasionally a rabbit-shaped body minus the head, which would have identified it as a cat. And I'll do this one. It's getting dark. The talking drums carried the news to the bush, and Father Vermeulen sent a letter reminding her that God lets happen what must happen for her own good. I think it's raining, but we're okay for now. And telling her that his black boys were carving an ivory tusk, which he would receive in due time from a runner. By the end of her first month in the treehouse, she had Felix the monkey trained like a nun. He sat beside her at her solitary dining table, tied his napkin around his neck, and ate delicately from a plate. Afternoons, when she napped, he foraged for chickens in the thatch, or crickets in the thatch, and plucked at her covers with his tiny black hands when he knew it was time to get up and read the office. When she knelt for evening prayers, he sat on the high hospital bed, holding both feet in his hands and staring at her with his queer little golden eyes until she crossed herself. Then he flung himself at her in a single leap and wrapped his long, wiry arms around her neck, hugging her fiercely. She never talked to him after the grand silence, but sometimes she laughed softly as she carried him about the room to look at the moths festooning the screens. A snap of the light switch plunged them both into the heart of the treetops. The 1,000 forms of nocturnal life that sang, whistled, and moaned in the bush seemed to come in closer. I know, I hope so too. Okay, one more page. We can do this. I'm not getting wet. I'm under the tree. We can do it. The incessant drums were fever-quick like Felix's heart when the moon rose and reflected from the feathery mimosas phosphorescent eyes that never blinked. In 2 months she gained 10 pounds. She supervised herself with scrupulous care and understanding. The euphoria of the tubercular that filled her with love, intense, personal, and passionate, and made it difficult to speak calmly with anyone she had even remotely admired before the onset of her malady, was something she could cope with because she anticipated that phase. Her optimism flew high, not only for her eventual care, of which she was sure, of which she was sure, but for everything that would happen to her henceforth. That, too, she knew, was a characteristic of the tubercular, the very quality, in fact, which made them such interesting patients. Yet somehow she felt that her own high hopes would not vanish with her malady. She brushed away the doctor's preposterous remark about her main malady. She was obeying his orders to relax, to live from day to day, and to keep her thoughts within the brackets of each sunrise and sunset. It astonished her to learn how simple life could be, and how much inner happiness resulted when you took each day like a gift from God with no strings attached. And that's some wisdom for us all. One afternoon after her nap, she was standing by the screen windows reciting the Office of Lauds. She came to her favourite passages in the Canticle of the 3 Children from Daniel. Her heart leaped with happiness as she called upon the light and darkness to bless the Lord, on the mountains and the hills, the seas and the rivers, and all that move in the waters. Benedicte, O all beasts and cattle, bless the Lord. This is how a nun should be, she thought suddenly. This is what is meant by being a child of God. She stared out at the mimosa trees, the faces of the many happy nuns she knew, who used to mystify her, who had sometimes seemed quite childish in their unquestioning acceptance of everything that happened to them, seemed to smile back at her. Now you know, they seemed to say. Live from day to day. There are always the graces to help us over the rough spots. I had to fall ill to learn this, she said to her monkey. She shook her thermometer excitedly and walked about the room with Felix clinging to her skirts as she took a temperature. It was down to normal for the first time at that special hour when the fever showed. Next morning after operations, the doctor caught her examining her sputum under the microscope. Don't rush things, sister, he said good-naturedly. It's not going to be easy to return to the community, even... He gave her a smile only faintly tinged with malice. Even to this very select little gathering here in the Congo. A week later, all her slides showed negative. Back in the community, she felt at first like a traveler returned from some beautiful land of silence and solitude. There was much more sound in a convent than she had remembered. The varying vibrations from a score of women made a sort of thin, high humming, like the singing of telephone wires strung across space. And that's the end of chapter 13. And we made it, and I didn't get rained out. I don't know if it's still raining. It's good to be under the trees. So let's see. I guess next week it'll still be light enough out. Thanks. I guess next week it'll still be light enough out to read at 5. But I think in 2 weeks we might have to move this a little earlier. Maybe I'll go like a half hour earlier to begin, and an hour. We'll just kind of move. I'll have to see when the sun sets. I'll go look at the, what time the sun sets each week. Oh, I did it again. I took it up my nose. No, I'm going to go back. Oh, yeah, Sunday. Yes, it should be Sunday next week. Sunday at 5 next week, because I'll be busy on Saturday playing dress up. So come on over to my Instagram. I'm sure I'll be sharing from that. Yeah, Sunday at 5 next week. And then after that, maybe Saturday at 4:30 or 4 or something. What else? Yeah, I might be doing something. I might be going somewhere else on Sunday as well, but I'm going to try to go earlier and be back in time to do this. I think that's possible because that is also an all-day event. Okay, that's getting too close to my face. Oh dear. Yes. So I was going to say something else. Oh, this week, someone was kind enough to send me this BBC radio program, radio drama that they had written in 2007. Somehow I found mention of it online, and it was called The Belgian Nurse, and it's about Sister Marie-Louise Abbé, Sister Luke, and her relationship with the author Catherine Home. Home? I don't know how to pronounce that. It was interesting because I couldn't find it online, and I contacted her, and she sent me a CD with it on. It was so sweet. So I got to listen to that. It's a half hour, an hour or something. It's a secret. How old do I look? And I listened to that this week, which is interesting because the author of this book and the nun, they met while doing some post-war refugee work, and ended up living together in the U.S. She sponsored her to come to the U.S. and they lived together in like Arizona, California, and Hawaii. And she wrote this book with her input, and they lived together until they both died sometime in the 1980s as a couple. So interesting, I think. I definitely have to find her autobiography, the author's autobiography, because I think that'd be interesting to read. That's what my 93-year-old friend says. She says, "You're so young. You're still so young." Thanks. So yeah, that was fun to listen to this week. I have to say, I do it better. They had an Audrey character in it as well, but I think I do it better. The last one was the tobacco one. I am out of those right now because I already smoked them, and I should go inside. I gotta wrangle cats and get them inside for dinner. They love food, shouldn't be too hard, but I'm not sure where they are. But yes, as I said in the beginning, for anyone who missed it, if you're watching this video or any of the other videos where I smoke and read, anywhere else other than my YouTube channel, please let me know, because I have not shared it or posted it anywhere, and I have a suspicion that it is affecting my channel. My views are high, but the earnings are going down, which does not seem logical to me because these are popular videos, and I have 13 of them now. So whoosh. Oh, there it goes. Wild tigers running through. So let me know if you are seeing this video or other of my videos somewhere else, because I would like to know and figure out what the issue is here, because it doesn't make sense to me. So just saying that again. I might have to make a reminder of that in like every video, just in case. So there's that. Yeah, that is about it for now. I excitedly look forward to next weekend where I get to go to this kind of Renaissance fair thing here in the Netherlands. Go out, see people, dress up. I can't wait to dress up. Oh my gosh. I've been touching up my outfit. It's Outlander style. I don't have a fantasy outfit right now. I don't have any fairy wings. Someday. So I'm kind of going Outlander. So lots of wool. Do I like it? I don't know. I mean, like it's enjoyable. I mean, I'm not going to do it all the time. I don't like think about it when I'm not doing it, and I don't really join my boyfriend. Although maybe I'll like stuff some cannabis in a cigarette or something and join him. I did join him at the spa resort we went to this week, out on the balcony. I brought my Gandalf pipe. It wasn't a cigarette. It was my Gandalf pipe. So, all right, I'm gonna go gather the cats. I hear the rain starting again. So I'm gonna have some wet cats. Yeah, I would like to again. I was just watching one of the videos I took in kind of the area my ancestors lived in, just listening to the cows and their bells. I wouldn't want to hear that all the time, but it is soothing if they're in the distance. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, and I have a friend I'd like to visit there. 2 or 3 friends I'd like to visit there. So fingers crossed, like next year I'll be able to go down to Switzerland again. It'd be nice, yes. Okay, I'm gonna go before it rains too hard. And I will see you next week. Should be Sunday at 5 next week. All right. Bye, thanks for joining.